Hi, and welcome back to another live episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I am Andrew Merkel, of course, joined by our Michigan beat writer, Tony Garcia. Tony, it's been a busy few weeks, man. April has suddenly become like this crazy time in the college sports calendar, right? I mean, no one really saw that coming, but we have the transfer portal now. We have spring football. We have Michigan basketball, who instead of a couple years ago didn't even make March Madness. Now they're playing till April. It's been a busy time.
No, it has been. And I feel like I owe like an apology to my fiance because like all winter and spring coming into it, I'm like, you know what? I'm like April 6th. That's the last day of the college football or college basketball season. We're going to be like winding down right around then. Then Michigan wins it all. And I'm like, and we have our engagement party the next Saturday. But I'm like, I'm actually not going to be around to really prepare for that. I'm just going to kind of be showing up because we've got the parade and then we've got a Chrysler Center celebration. And then that was done. And we're like, all right, cool. We're sort of done with things. But then the transfer portal was really heating up that week. And so needed to keep tabs on that and just, some additions that we'll talk about. So that was going. Then the next Saturday, which I did know about, was the spring football game. It's like, all right, maybe that is when we're done. And then on Thursday is the draft. And then Friday of this past week, so I guess what was that, April like 22nd and 23rd, that was the NBA deadline to enter the draft. And so
it's honestly comical, right?
I know. I ended up publishing like 14 stories in 2 days, which that's a lot for any time of year, but especially when I had been saying for 3 weeks that I'm almost done. Like we're like, and not to mention, I don't know if you could see behind me, my walls are empty. We're in the process of moving. The wedding is 3 weeks away. So I've been getting hit from every angle, but I really do think now, like in famous last words, but things really are about to slow down once May starts in a couple of days here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we kind of got stuck in the spot. We're like, okay, well, let's come back after, let's come back next week. Oh, well, this is going on. Then we're like, okay, well, the draft is going on. We had the spring football game going on. We're like, okay, so at this point, it's Wednesday, the 29th. Let's just record and whatever happens after happens, right? But let's start by talking about football because this podcast has been dominated by basketball. And, when we first started this, we thought it was going to be a lot of football and some basketball, but Michigan basketball has become such a national story. We haven't even had a lot of time to talk about this football program, now being led by a new coach who Michigan fans don't know that much about. So I'll ask you a simple question to start off. USA Today's Matt Hayes did a profile on Kyle Whittingham recently. He's getting a little buzz, but what have you learned about Kyle Whittingham this spring?
He's understated, right? In the same way, like Jim Harbaugh was sort of a lightning rod and everything he said or did was dissected and thought about and reverse engineered. And you sort of like pulled at strings to sort of see what would happen. And then obviously we had the Sharon Moore era that was, of course, like now is going to be highlighted by the end. But really at the beginning, it was, can he keep this thing going? Then they start 5-5 in year one. It's like, oh boy, this is a disaster. They pummel Northwestern, they shock Ohio State, they beat Alabama to end that year. And it's like, all right, like maybe it just took a little bit and maybe they'll have some juice going into the next year. And then this last year was just extremely, behind the scenes, it was not, but from a purely X's and O's football results standpoint, it was pretty mundane, right? They went 9-3 in the regular season. They finished 9-4. They were favored to win 9 games. They won those 9 games. They were expected to lose 4 games. They lost those 4 games. They were kind of exactly what you expected. Not good enough to beat the best teams, but better than your average team. And then everything just goes haywire at the end, obviously with his firing, with his arrest, with the scandal and the whole bit. And now Kyle Whittingham has come in and it just feels very even keel, very par for the course. It feels like they've been operating I think they kind of capitalized on basketball's success in the fact that so many eyes were over here. They were kind of able to sort of operate in the shadows on the other end. I couldn't tell you this is my 4th year on the beat. I just finished my 4th year on the beat. And I think this was the least spring football oriented. I know for sure that we've ever been in March and April. Under Harbaugh, it used to start in February, late February, and would go till early April. It didn't start till St. Patrick's Day. And then you got like a 34-day window. They got 15 practices in there. It's rapid fire. 3 of those weeks were on the road in Buffalo and Chicago and Indy doing all that stuff. And so it sounds like they got a lot of good work done from what I'm hearing and from what they're saying. I know they were very impressed, and players who different positions meeting with us different days. And it's not like these players they obviously talk to each other as friends and teammates, but it's not like they talk to each other about what they're going to tell us. And consistently, they were talking weight room, discipline, being held to a standard, all these things that had really fallen off in the past couple years. And so it sounds like Kyle Whittingham, what you see is what you get. You know where you stand with him as a player. Another thing I've been trying to sort of grasp is because of the way the last couple of coaching staffs operated, the most recent one just gassing players up left, right, and center, and with Sharon, and then you can't, like, you got to take it all with a grain of salt, right? Everybody can't be a superstar as you're telling us. So like, who really is, who's not? And then the one before, Jim Harbaugh, like, you had to ask him the right question on the right day. There's certain things he wanted to talk about, certain things he didn't. Kyle Whittingham, he's not going to give you a ton, but he's going to answer your question pretty honestly and directly, is so far has been what I've gathered. And I feel like the evidence of that was Tommy Carr. I don't know if we're jumping the shark here by talking about him right away. He was gassing him up as QB2 all spring football. And in my mind, I'm like, well, you only have 3 healthy quarterbacks, and Chase Herbstreit was a low level, like, over recruited, glorified walk on. Respectfully, no hate to Chase Herbstreit or the Herbstreit family in that, but he was a low level 3-star, typically not the type of player who comes to Michigan, certainly at the quarterback position. And so Bryce is obviously number 1. So it sort of felt like by default, Tommy Carr was the number 2 because Brady Smigel is hurt. He's still coming back from a leg injury, the 4-star who was supposed to be the headlining quarterback of this class. But then we got to see him in the spring game, and he was really good. He was mobile. I'm not going to do the sneaky athlete thing because we all know what that means when you call someone a sneaky athlete, especially someone who looks like Tommy. I'll just say he was athletic, right? He was faster than I thought, and you knew he could run, but he actually was faster than I expected him to be. I just feel like some of the times this stuff gets played up like, oh, Lloyd Carr's grandson, like, you can tell he comes from a football family. The way he walks, the way he talks, the way he carries himself, and just sort of, even in that brief glimpse we got of him for 3 quarters where he couldn't be contacted against an even front defense with a too high look, right? Like these were very strict parameters that he was going against, but that's all we got to see. And he was on that day. I'm not saying there is no quarterback controversy. Bryce Underwood is the starting quarterback of this team. However, on that day, he was the better quarterback of the 2. And so I think that was, so that helped me say, like, all right, if Kyle is going to tell us something is going on behind the scenes, put that in the check mark for leaning towards believing versus just sort of being more cautious or what have you.
Yeah, it's like, do you throw it away? The first initial instinct is to throw away the Tommy Carr grandson storyline and be like, freshman, he should still be in high school right now, right? That's how young he is, right? So it's like it's so much easier to discredit it, but the amount of times it's been brought up, in the tone it's been brought up, it's like you feel like you have to take it slightly seriously, right? Like, so I mentioned that USA Today story that our sister adult paper, whatever you want to call it, we're all part of the same USA Today family. They did this whole interview with Whittingham, and at the very, very end, there was a line thrown in there from Whittingham saying, I'm at the facility at 10 at night, and I walk by the quarterback room, and there's Tommy Carr watching film by himself. He's completely immersed in his development as far as trying to get better. And that was just like randomly thrown in at the end of the story. But him saying that is not an accident, right? So it's like, we don't want to let the runaway train go away here. But like, Tommy Carr was supposed to go to, wasn't it Miami, Ohio? Like, what, not even 6 months ago? And now he's coming in here and impressing. And you have to, as much as his grandfather, of course, contributes to it, I have younger brothers and who have copied a lot of what I've done over the years. And, I have old role models who I look up to, and I like to do what they have shown me before that way. Like CJ Carr is the starting quarterback in Notre Dame, his older brother. That certainly contributes to his work habits and what he knows he has to do to get on the field, right? So for now, I think it's in the continue to monitor category, but I guess it's probably a good time to talk about it. What do you think happened for Bryce, who we initially thought wasn't even going to play in the spring game? He goes out there, attempts a few passes, and if it was not the same type of stuff that was happening last year, you might throw it away. But like, again, you get a little more credibility because it was some of the same stuff that was happening last year. Do you think that was just working out the kinks of a new offense, or is it something you're still kind of watching?
Yeah, I'm trying not to jump to either conclusion, but I don't want like a milquetoast take, right? Like just to like be towing the line. But I feel like because of what we are able to see in the spring is so limited, I feel like it's time to be a little more measured. From the sounds of it, And again, this goes to like, well, this is what Kyle Whittingham is saying happening behind the scenes. This other thing happened, so I'll take you at your word for now, right? Like I don't need, like I'm generally, and I think a lot of reporters are like naturally sort of cynical and question what we're told if we can't see it. Like I can't just take you at your word. That's not how this works for long term, but in the short term, I can until it's proven that I can't. Bryce was said to have had a good spring. They say they saw development in his poise, in his footwork, in his mechanics, those sorts of things. But also, I think that stuff is that's really what the summer's for, right? I mean, they were installing Jason Beck's offense. Like first and foremost, it was familiarizing the entire team with this playbook, with this scheme, what we want to do against certain looks in certain situations, down and distances, all of those things, right? And then after that, when you're in this summer and he's working out with his private quarterbacks coach, Donovan Dooley in Detroit, we also know he's hired Jordan Palmer. He's working out with him in LA. I was just on Instagram 30 minutes ago. Bryce is out in California right now. Not sure if he's working with him currently or not, but he was earlier this offseason. And so, I mean, he is putting in the time, but that 10 p.m. thing that Whittingham said, it just calls into question more about last year. I mean, I remember Sharon Moore was talking, well, heck, I met with Bryce last summer. I went to a private workout with him and he was talking about how the coaches had to give him a curfew for how late he was in the building because he was working out in the building and doing all those things late at night. And Sharon was talking about him being like setting the tone or among one of the tone setters with Bredesen and those guys as the hardest workers on the team. And then you hear Kyle Whittingham saying, 10 p.m. is like, let's pump the brakes, right? Like it's 10 p.m. If you've been practicing all afternoon and night, you don't need to be, it's not, these are humans. They are allowed to be places other than the facility, right? Like, so that's its own point. However, when you hear that Tommy Carr is the last one in there and he's all by himself watching film and grinding tape, it sort of makes you raise your eyebrows. So I'm going to chalk up the Bryce Underwood experience. He was 3 for 9 for 22 yards. It was 2 check down completions, 1 ball that he sort of really threaded the needle. It was a nice 16-yard pass to Eli Owens, but 1 pass out of 9 that really impresses is not a great hit rate. But the offensive line is split up. You don't have your full complement of weapons. They are going to water down sort of the calls of what they're doing on offense. So there's just so many extenuating circumstances and factors. It's hard to take a ton away from it. But the one thing you can take away from it is clearly you wanted to see better. I mean, I think everybody could say that. For the one public appearance that you're going to have until September 5th when you open the season, against Western Michigan, that's not going to make people feel great going into the offseason.
Absolutely. So real quick, I see we're getting some questions. I want to make a note. We are taking questions live here. Jeff Goki and P. Maximus. I see both your questions. There's a hockey question and a basketball question. We'll get to those in the second half because we want to finish talking about football, but we will answer your guys' questions there, guys. So keep firing them. We appreciate that. To finish off a football conversation here, some expected strengths and weaknesses. I mean, every team is so much resetting these days, right? I mean, it's like you're almost an entirely new group. I wouldn't necessarily put Michigan in like Indiana with Kurt Cignetti level turnover or, Michigan State with Pat Fitzgerald, where it's just like 40 in, 40 out type situation. But it's going to be a new look team. So what do you think what would you say is the strength so far heading into the summer? And what would you say is possibly a weakness that you have an eye on as we wrap up our football conversation here?
Yeah. So stop me if you've heard this before. I think the running backs are going to be a strength, right? I think we've grown accustomed to that at Michigan over the years. It's Jordan Marshall. What you see is what you get. The only thing that really slowed him down last year was his health. He had a slow start to the season. He talked about just this is a guy who I don't know Kyle Whittingham's philosophy. Historically at Michigan, you have to be a senior to be a captain. If Kyle Whittingham changes those parameters, Jordan Marshall will be a captain this fall. Book it. For sure. He really is a leader like that, and he has been since he was a sophomore. And so he was doing the right things. I mean, Justice Haynes comes in and really takes the world by storm, right? I mean, he just has a complete breakout, and he's like, it was said to be 1A, 1B, and then it went to 1 and 2. But then Haynes gets hurt. Jordan was never really able to get into a rhythm in any of those games, just getting some intermittent carries here and there. But then once he did, he had like 4 or 5 games in a row with 100 plus yards and a touchdown. He was doing exactly what Justice Haynes was doing. Maybe not the big chunk runs, those 70, 60, 75 yarders, but in terms of when you look at it at the end of the game, the carries, the yards, the scores, he had it all there. Then he gets hurt against Northwestern, injures his shoulder in the fourth quarter, has to sit out Maryland, come back Ohio State. He just can't go through. So barring those sort of setbacks and injuries, which can happen to anyone, that's not really a predictable thing. I would expect a 1,000-yard season from Jordan Marshall. I think he is going to be a workhorse ball carrier. And the only reason he won't be or wouldn't be is because Savion Hyder it would be if Savion Hyder impresses as much as we've heard, and just sort of some of those quick glimpses we got in the spring, again in the spring game a couple weekends ago. I mean, this guy is just, I mean, he is just built. He is like, I mean, like we were talking to him after the game. His thighs might be as big as Jordan Marshall's, and Jordan is. I think these guys squat something like 600 pounds, 550, 600, and they're 5'11", 205, 210. It's just so unfair. So unfair as someone who works as someone who works on the squat and with no success. But Savion is just physical, right? I mean, I still want to see more as far as vision, and I mean, I don't know where that stands. He carried the ball 10 times, right? Like, so I'm not in the business. I know we are in the business of headlines and drumming up interest and all of that. I think Savion is going to be great. I'm not going to have any grand takeaway from 10 carries other than you can see the physicality. You can see he's ready for this level, and running back is one of the positions where you can make an immediate impact. And because it's just more natural, it's more feel, right? Like, all right, this is a duo block. This is where your hole's going to be. Like we're running like gap scheme, zone scheme, power. We're going to try to stretch the ball, get to the outside, right? It's just a few different things as opposed to a wide receiver where different coverages are going to dictate what you do on option routes. Some quarterbacks like you to cut things, like you need to be on the same page with someone else. Whereas when you're the back, they hand you the ball, go make a play. And so I think that's somewhere where he could impact. I do expect wide receiver to be sort of a sleeper strength. I don't know how much of a sleeper it is anymore, but I really like the depth they have there. Marsh, Buchanan, Jamie French, Celessi Moa. I think it's going to be the best receiver room Michigan might have. The most talented since the days of Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tariq Black. That room didn't come to fruition, but that's the level of talent we're talking about. Expected weakness, I would probably put it as linebacker. I mean, you lose Jimmy Rolder to the draft. You lose Ernest Hausman to eligibility. You lose Cole Sullivan to the transfer portal. You lose Jayshawn Barham, who started as a linebacker. Then they moved him from linebacker because they needed more bodies and effectiveness at the edge position last year. But he was someone who started in that room and who they knew at any time in a pinch, if bodies are light or what have you, they could rotate someone back there. So now it's going to fall on guys like Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, Chase Taylor, and those sort, right? And they've got other pieces coming in like Nathaniel Strailing, who I think they are counting on to really sort of help push for a starting role. But it's an inexperienced room. There's just no doubt about that. And so and also, I mean, we're still getting to learn Jay Hill's scheme, right? And like, because Michigan, the linebacker, I mean, historically is an extremely important position, especially the way Michigan sort of operated their scheme in this Raven style front, right? Like the front line, the trenches, eat up blocks, linebackers, work downhill, wrap up, and you're the tacklers, right? That's why like these defensive tackles and edges didn't have a ton of tackles lately for Michigan, or as many as some other programs would. And so linebacker is a place that I have circled as a concern. And then I'll just wrap it up. Sort of, what I see as the pivotal game-changing rooms are the offensive line and quarterback, right? I mean, quarterback, we just went through it with Bryce. We don't need to rehash it, but for all the obvious reasons. And then offensive line, I mean, I like it on paper, right? You got Blake Frazier at left tackle, Evan Link at left guard, Jake Guarnera at center, probably Nate Afobe, who had a pretty rough spring game when I gave it a second watch in his reps at right guard, and then Andrew Sprague at right tackle. You've got Kahaina Torres and Brady Norton is sort of that guard interior depth, and Andrew Babalola, how healthy is he? Can he be sort of that rhino, that sixth offensive lineman, that swing tackle, maybe filling in a pinch at right or left if someone gets hurt, what have you? But the pass blocking was not good in the spring game. And again, it's one practice, not going to look too much into it. And they do have Jim Harding, who is an elite offensive line coach. And you got to be, and Kyle Whittingham, I mean, when he was asked about it a couple times, he's like, I got confidence because I had Jim Hardick. He's like, I think he's the best offensive line coach in the country. That remains to be seen, although Utah did just have 2 first-round offensive line picks. And it's not like they are USC or Georgia or Alabama where 5 stars just want to come in, right? I mean, that's a lot of development and identification and growth. So those are all things that you hope and would expect to a certain extent to translate here at Michigan. But those are after the spring, after talking to coaches, talking to players, watching the spring game, analyzing where this roster sits. Those are sort of the things that I've ID'd as some of the pivot points for this upcoming season.
All right, good recap. I think that's enough football for now. We'll be talking football here for the next couple of weeks. So we'll get into the schedule and all that stuff. That's still to come. But for now, I think that's a good spring recap. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Stick with us on the live. For the podcast, we'll take a short break and come back and talk about basketball. All right, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us here. So, basketball has quickly turned over its roster, as Dusty May has now been accustomed to doing here at Michigan, right? I mean, they had a really solid team in his first year. Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, they're 2 of their best players out the door. Income, Yaxel Lendeborg, Adai Mara, and Merez Johnson. Okay, well, yeah, those 3 are out now. And now he's got the tough task of trying to top a team who, I mean, Cruz might be putting it too aggressively, but I mean, they rolled to the national title, right? So expectations couldn't be higher. This week, we saw the new announcements of the roster. We have the freshman class, the transfer portal class. Let's just start with Maximus's question here because he's been waiting long enough time. After watching Dusty May's press conference, which of the true freshmen have a chance to make a significant impact? And then we'll go from there as far as the transfer portal guys.
Yeah, so let's eliminate the ones who do not. So Lincoln Cosby, the 4-star from Montverde, he tore his ACL last season. He's going to redshirt this year. And so he will not be factoring in. Another one who I would say has a large hill to climb, and it's from an awful personal health circumstance, which we updated today on Freep.com, is Marcus Muller, the Danish center, 7'2". He plays professionally in Spain, but he was diagnosed with testicular cancer this winter, and he's been going through treatment. Dusty May said he has one more, I want to get the word exactly right. I think he said surgery or one more procedure. It might have been procedure. One more hurdle he has to clear to be out of the weeds is what Dusty May said. But they're optimistic. They're hopeful. And more than anything, they're just hoping health-wise as a human for Marcus that everything turns out well. Then we'll work from the top down. Brandon McCoy, 5-star from Sierra Canyon. You probably know that. That's where Bronny James, Bryce James, a lot of stars over the years have played in California. He will factor into this team. There's no doubt about it. He can play the 1, the 2, the 3. I think they'd ideally want him to play the 2 is probably his most natural position, but there's not a ton of point guard depth with LJ Kaysen, who also tore his ACL, who will be redshirting this season. So Elliot Cadeau is going to get the bulk of those minutes. Maybe Trey McKinney gets some of those. Maybe Brandon McCoy gets some of those. Fortunately for Michigan, they have an open flow style offense where they don't have to have a true point guard on the court to function. And so Brandon McCoy, and when I've been talking to people, the way I see it is he's kind of going to be like the Trey McKinney of this year. Like maybe he's a 6th man, maybe he does not start, but Trey McKinney was, I think, top 4 in minutes last year, right? It was maybe he was 5th behind Elliott, Yaxel, Adai, and Merez, but he was by the end of the year. And this is what I was asking Dusty about this today. Just sort of, it looks like the 3 is sort of, if you were just doing it as a 1 through 5 in the starting lineup, the 3 position, that's what have been getting questions about. That looks like the place that's not filled out. And Dusty's answer was like, look, like, honestly, he's like, I get the question, but we're more concerned about our closing lineup than our starting lineup. Like Nemari started this last year, but Trey was often on the court in crunch time. It was because they felt that the way Nemari flowed with that lineup was better for his skill set, and Trey coming in sort of being a facilitator and someone who could go like as soon as you check into the game and go make an impact instead of feeling it out with all these other guys on the court. So that worked. So I could see Brandon McCoy being sort of like that. Joseph Hartman, he could absolutely factor in. He's a wing and maybe not as talked about because Michigan's landed some of these other McDonald's guys. Quinn Costello, I think he's going to be in the mix as well. 6'10", he can shoot it. He's like a 40+% 3-point shooter. I think they're going to put him at the 3 and 4. He's not quite built enough to hold up physically at the 4, and maybe not quite quick enough to handle the 3, but there's always a flip side to that, right? Like as a 4, he can stretch you out, and he is the most quintessential pick and pop stretch 4 that you could draw up in a lab. I mean, that's what he does. And then at the 3, he's got enough length to bother anybody. And I mean, he's 6'10", right? If you got him at the 3 and you had like Estrella at the 4 and Cham at the 5, that'd be 6'10", 6'11", 7'2". And somehow they're bigger than they were this year, right? Like it doesn't mean, and so that's an option there. And then the last freshman is Malachi Brown. What Justy said today was interesting. He said that they were at like one of his camps or a showcase of some sort, and he was talking to some NBA guys who are not intimately familiar with every player on the court. And some of them, even though he's like a 3-star, he's the lowest rated of the 5 who are rated. Marcus Muller's international, so he doesn't have a grade on 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. They thought he was like one of these star guys just because of the way he was a connector and doing everything on both ends of the court. So I just don't know if he's going to be able to crack this rotation, because now the roster is expanded from 13 to 15 players this last year. And that's why Michigan felt comfortable taking 6 freshmen this year. Some might be projects. Some might be, what did Dusty call it? Sort of like a flyer is what he said. He's like, we felt like we could take a flyer or 2 on a guy because we still have enough depth at the top of the roster. And we feel that we might be able to develop some of these guys, because you have to keep in mind, I mean, Oscar Goodman's going to get minutes. Ricky Leibert's going to get minutes. I mean, there are Cadeau's going to get a lot of minutes. The 3 transfers, I mean, depending Jalen Reed's health, Trey McKenney. So a lot of a bulk of the minutes are sort of accounted for. And the freshmen are going to be the ones rounding out that second unit. So hopefully that was enough of sort of who we expect.
Yeah, thanks to Maximus for the question. We appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, basically Michigan, and this is another benefit of kind of the style that Dusty has played the last couple of years, they are probably going to clobber a lot of these teams. And you know why that's good? Is because in close games, your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th guy might not get in. If you're beating someone 80-50 with 10 minutes left, all of a sudden, whoever that 11th guy ends up being, whoever, that flyer, like you said, can get 10 minutes, 5 minutes here and there throughout the season. And you're dragging people along, and people are getting more confidence. You're on the court. You feel a little bit better about yourself, and that always helps with development too. So, I mean, Michigan's roster is looking absolutely loaded again, and in part because, you just covered the freshman class. McCoy is listed as a 6'5" point guard. He's a 5-star. Costello, McDonald's All-American. I mean, Michigan fans, if you want to know a little bit about Costello, watching him play some of the best. I mean, I watched just a few minutes of the McDonald's All-American game in between college basketball stuff, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to play right away. Like he has a great feel. So watch that for a few minutes on YouTube if you want to get a feel of what Costello's like. But the reason they're like given the number 1 class as a total, not just recruiting or prep kids, is because of the transfer portal class. And they really solidified that this week. They first got JP Estrella from Tennessee right off the bat. Then they got Mustafa Cham, the guy from Cincinnati, who those following the transfer portal closely have definitely heard about, because he was not just wanted by Michigan. He was highly, highly sought after. He's a 7'2" rim protector who takes over 2 3-pointers a game. I think that's something that every single basketball coach and program in the country and in the NBA is looking for, right? The guy who can protect the rim and can shoot. So at his very best, that's what he can do. And then they also brought in Jalen Reed from LSU. He's been injured the last couple of years, but he's got that size, a little bit of depth in the interior while they wait for some of these projects potentially to pan out. So what do you make of the transfer portal class? Is it on par with last year's class that had Yaxel, Adai, Merez, Cadeau? I mean, that one set the bar. So it's going to be a high bar, but is it comparative to that?
Not yet. No. Because Yaxel was, he was the number 1 player in the transfer portal. Michigan doesn't have that guy this year. They're still hoping. They're still in the mix for, and Dusty May couldn't talk about this because he can't, per NCAA rules, you can't talk about players who are not on your roster. But Michigan is still in the mix and hoping to have one more say in the Juke Harris sweepstakes before it's all said and done. The wing from Wake Forest. He visited. I met up with him and caught up with him during the parade in Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago. He's Tennessee's involved, North Carolina's involved, and he's going through the NBA draft process. So there are a few, you need things to break the right way. There's no doubt about it. But if you added Juke Harris, then yeah, I would say this class could be almost on par. But I still don't think it would be. I mean, if you think of Elliot Cadeau, Yaxel Lendeborg, Morez Johnson Jr., Adai Mara, that's 3 first-round NBA picks and the most outstanding player in the Final Four. It's not going to be better than that, right?
It's going to be the top transfer portal class in the nation for probably years to come when you consider those 4 guys who 3 of them are potentially top 20 NBA draft picks. And not only were they just potential, like NBA drafts on potential, that's just a fact, but they melded together and played such good team basketball together. I mean, it just sets the bar so high for that transfer portal class to be topped. But we've talked about it a million times on this show. It's a lot easier to sell now for Dusty and his career, right? Like the Danny Wolf and Vlad Gold made it easier to sell to Yaxel Lendeborg, Adai Mara, and Rez Johnson. And those 3 made it easier to sell to Estrella and Cham and Jalen Reed so far. And potentially Juke Harris too, right? And so on and so on. And it's self-fulfilling at this point. And also, Michigan didn't have the recruiting class high school-wise. They had Trey McKinney coming in, but they didn't have this freshman class where you have a McDonald's All-American and a 5-star McCoy. It's just like that, it's ultimately college basketball in a world where freshmen make an impact right away. I mean, it's all about who's coming in together, right? You have to take the whole class, and Michigan certainly looks like they have the best one right now to me.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And the phrase Dusty used with us today is proof of concept, right? They have 2 years of proof of concept of overachieving, and I don't even know if the national championship was necessarily overachieving. I mean, it's the highest achievement you can get, but they felt like that was well within the realm of possibility when they got together in the summer, right? So either overachieving like the year before when they were second in the Big Ten, won the Big Ten tournament, went to the Sweet 16, or overachieving in the sense of the most wins in program history, the first team in 50 years in the Big Ten to run the table in road games in the league, setting a Big Ten record with 19 wins in league play, and then winning the program's second national championship, the first in 37 years. I mean, it was, without going undefeated, it was the perfect season. There's no way around that. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, I covered 15-0 Michigan football, and I would put this team above that. I really would, just in terms of everything they did and the way they came together.
Dominance,
yeah,
right?
Dominant, yeah, for sure. But as far as this transfer class, sort of like the way I see them working, I mean, Mustafa Cham is probably, he's going to be the biggest name, literally and figuratively. And you talked about it. He can stretch the floor. I think he's like a 29.5% 3-point shooter. So if you can get that up to 33%, right? Then I think you really got something. That sounds like a small difference. It's actually not. But
actually it is on the course of the sample size, right? Like, so he shot 1.7. So let's round it up to 2, call it 35 games. That's 73s, right? Like it's not unachievable, and it is a big difference, but like we're talking about like 3 or 4 more makes could make a huge difference in the percentage, right? So when you're talking about college 3-point sample size, the threat to me is a huge deal, almost as much as the percentage.
Exactly. But the percentage is then, as Dusty says, every action has a reaction, right? And if he's a 29%, 28% 3-point shooter, teams are not going to close out on him. They are going to just let him take that and live with the results. If you're hitting at a 1 out of 3 clip or anywhere above that, they will be forced to close out on you. And then you've got their big away from the rim. You can play 4-on-4 over the rest of the court, back cut, slash, operator like in space, and it just like it's a snowball effect to what that opens up for everybody else. And obviously he's going to be a true center like Vlad Golden was, like Adai Mara was. Dusty says they see his game as different, maybe not defensively, like he is a true rim protector, but just sort of some of the things he can do. I think what that means is he can't pass like Adai, few can, but he's got sort of an intermediary game. I don't know if Michigan's going to want to sort of take that out because they don't see it as efficient shots. But if he can shoot it as 60% clip or whatever, they'll probably keep letting him take it. But really the one who sort of intrigues me the most is JP Estrella. I was told pretty early in the process, like right at like a few days after Michigan won the national championship and they were starting to look and start digging into some names and people who were in the portal. I was told by someone that was a high target for them and someone to really keep an eye on. And then I was speaking to someone else, both these people inside the program, who said they think he might be like one of the most underrated prospects in the portal. And he was still like pretty highly regarded. But this is a guy who averaged like 10 and a half and 6 almost boards a game in 19 minutes for Tennessee. He was top 8 in the country with a 17.9% offensive rebound rate. And Michigan, I mean, they've told us this last year, they chart offensive rebounds like defensive stops because you're getting the ball back for your offense. Michigan loves in and out threes. They think those are like some of the most efficient, high percentage points you can and looks you can get in the game. So to get an elite offensive rebounder, bring him into a system. They've shown, I mean, how many big men did you just name, Andrew? We don't need to say them all again. 5 in the last 2 years who they are turning into NBA prospects or moving, or if they were already on the NBA radar, they're elevating their game like Yaxel. Instead of late first round, he's probably a lottery guy now. And just you can project a jump for JP is what they call him. So, I mean, I don't think 13 points and
that's his name. What? That's not what they call him.
Well,
that's his
I know,
name.
but I call a lot of people by their last name until I know them. Like, I don't feel like I can call him JP, but everyone's JP. So I'm like, all right, JP. I know that's his name. Thank you, Andrew. But I get why that sounded weird. Anyways,
Tony Garcia. They call him Tony.
Yeah, they call
him Tony.
Yeah. That's great. And so, I mean, you can expect like a little bit of a jump, right? Like going from, if you just do a minutes juxtaposition, right? Say he goes from 18 to 27, right? 10 points would be 15 points. 7 boards would be 10, or 6 boards would be 9 boards, right? It's not just that simple. And I don't know if he's going to play 27, but 25, I would expect. And then Jalen Reed, the last one, I think they're really intrigued about this. And what I like is like, everything with Dusty, there's always layers to this. They had ties to these guys, right? Like, so Mustafa Cham, before this last year at Cincinnati, where he was all Big 12 honorable mention, he played at UCF. Dusty May's son played at UCF, and Dusty May had an assistant, I believe, like an assistant coach who he knew there as well, who they were on staff together. So they're getting all the ins and outs. Akeem Miskadeen, when he was at Georgia, recruited Jalen Reed, this last guy we're going to talk about, who ended up playing at LSU. But he had connections for 4 or 5 years ago, right? Because he's about to be a 5th-year guy, and so they liked his game. He was able to tell him about sort of what he was pre-injury, and Michigan's like, look. He's coming off an ACL. We feel, or actually now he's coming off an Achilles. It was an ACL 2 years ago. It was an Achilles this year, which are 2 pretty serious injuries. But Michigan's like, look, we feel like we have the roster where we can give him time. We can let him get back fully healthy. And if he can give us like 20, I mean, I'm not going to say an amount of games. I'll take that back. But whatever he can give us healthy, if he can stay healthy, we think there's some upside here. And they got him for a good dollar. And if he's not healthy, or it takes a little longer, or they don't quite get like it never reaches that upside because he's still just coming back from injuries, not everything materializes, right? You got to take a few shots. And if this doesn't go perfectly, like so much has the last couple of years, they still feel they have the depth to overcome that. So they feel like this is a high risk, low reward addition. I mean, he was like 10 and 5, 10 and 6 in 6, like over, he played 14 games the last 2 years. So there's not a ton, but as a junior, he was like 11 and 6.5 boards a game. So he was productive when he was on the court. It's just about, can he stay healthy?
All right, we're going to wrap up here shortly. But Jeff, earlier I teased this question. Jeff may have just found us on Facebook. We are a Michigan show, but we're hockey guys, we're basketball guys, we're football guys. We know a little bit about everything. So we want to appreciate Jeff for his question. Jeff asks, I have a question, not really football. What does Detroit, I think he's talking about the Red Wings, plan on doing to make this 10-year streak of not even making it to the playoffs next year? So Tony's laughing. I know he's passionate about his Detroit sports here. So Stevie Y, is he on the hot seat for you? And how do the Wings get back? I mean, Brady Tkachuk is in the rumor mill here. Helena St. James wrote on our website, freep.com, about how he'd be a perfect guy to pair with if the Wings can get him out of Ottawa. Is there anything else that you're keeping an eye on as far as just getting this crappy playoff drought over with?
Yeah, and I'm not giving Helena a hard time. So let me be clear. But it's like, oh, you don't say? Like a top 5 player in the league is a good pairing. Like, yeah, like that's like me saying they call him JP. Like we understand that. That's a given. No, I don't know. I've just been. I can't. The Red Wings are not my wheelhouse or my area of expertise. To answer your question, how is Steve Yzerman not on the hot seat? If his name was not Steve Yzerman, he would 100%, not 95, not 99, 100% have already been fired at this point. I don't think he would have made it for this year, right? I mean, it's 3 collapses in a row, 4 collapses in a row. They were top 3 in their division, in their conference, whatever it was. Like in January, they had an 85+% chance to make the postseason, like almost 2/3 of the way through the year, and they just had their March meltdown that seems like an annual happening. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that they need like real impact defensemen. I thought they tried to address that with Justin Falk. Fun fact, high school classmate of mine, Justin Falk.
Really?
And
he
was part of the USA development program, and I went to Ann Arbor Pioneer, and so I mean, there's just so many NHL guys who we play.
Doesn't it make you feel terrible that he's like a veteran and he's like old in the league? They're like, oh well, he's got a few years good left in him, and he's 32 or whatever, 33 years old. Like he's well established.
Yeah, no, it does in some ways, but also it's like, hey, like people were fired up about an addition like who is like in my grade. You know what I mean? It's like we still got some juice left. There's still some tread on the tires. Like 33 is not too old yet because it's getting older every day. And so I mean, they've tried. I'm done predicting what Steve's going to do. I mean, and here's another thing. Maybe they could get and this is so not fair. Like this is scapegoating. They are their own doers, and they've made their bed, and they've made bad signings and questionable moves, and they've underperformed time and time again, whether it's this coach, last coach, whatever. Maybe they could just get a little break in the draft.
Well, I got bad news for you.
Oh, what happened?
They traded the first round pick to get Falk. So
yeah, that's right.
That's not going to happen this year.
They weren't going to get the break anyway. It was going to end up being like they were going to be like 15th out of 15 possible teams. Yeah. So no, they need to hope and pray, and they should probably make a front office move of some sort.
Yeah, some type of change feels like it's coming. Probably not Yzerman. I mean, that seems far-fetched at this point. But we are a Michigan show. But thank you for Jeff for the question, for the engagement. We really appreciate that. And Tony and I can go off on tangents all day. So anytime, no matter, honestly, whatever's on your mind, just fire it towards us, and we'll see if we can work in the show.
Should we get the Kevin McGonigal AL Rookie of the Year sign ready? We can talk about that.
Yeah, we can. That'll be next week's closer. So with that, we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Tony, thanks for making it work on the schedule. We had Dusty May earlier today. It's been a busy time. So appreciate everyone who's joined us, made it through the end here. Thank you to our acting sports editor, Ryan Ford, and our producer and editor of the podcast, Robin Chan, and of course, Nicole Avery Nichols, who makes it all possible here at the Free Press. So with that, we'll talk to you guys again, planning out another episode next week. We'll wind down at some point in the summer here when there's not much news going on, but I think we got a couple more shows left in us to talk. More football, basketball, anything that comes along. So stick with us, check out your podcast feeds, and we'll talk to you guys sometime in the near future.